Hey everybody, and welcome back to the channel, and I am right back here with another Warpforge video, and we have done it. We've made, although I'm sure they're not the best deck for every faction, we have made a deck for every faction, which is pretty exciting. Necrons were last on my list, not because I don't like them. I think that when I played against them early on, it just doesn't really appeal to me, like what they're doing for the most part. I don't know why. I think maybe it's just I don't feel some sort of kinship with the Necrons, but I really feel like every faction has some very, very potent lists. And it's definitely taken a while to build enough of a collection for each thing to really have like a serviceable deck. But as soon as I really felt like, okay, we've got enough kind of rares, we've got some other, cards, like epic cards to play around with. I think the deck is serviceable, and it's kind of a window into what I think are some of the strengths of the Necrons and maybe some of the drawbacks. And unfortunately, although I've opened a lot of packs for each faction, I still only have this Warlord for the Necrons. But I think it's totally fine. It's kind of the same thing as the Eldar video we had, where it's just a Warlord that makes a dude, right? So relentless march, deploy a Necron soldier. This is what you get. So very similar to Madrail Galen, I think is the Warlord that we were playing for the Eldari, where you could just make a dude every turn. It's probably right to make a dude every turn, and then you can kind of tune your list to see what you want to do. So what are the Necrons kind of about? And I think from kind of like a bird's eye view, when you look at the cards, and I'm thinking about doing kind of a card evaluation video for each faction, just because coming from a Magic background, as I've said, I feel like I'm still getting the hang of like this whole, like, you've got a Warlord and it's your life total, but it's kind of a Planeswalker, like, in terms of Magic terms. So I think from a bird's eye view, from my perspective, when I look at Necrons, I see a lot of powerful late game cards for sure. Some very particularly powerful Vanguard units. You've got the Scarab strategies, which I, in this deck, do not have. And I tested it, and I've just felt like very underwhelmed by it, probably because you have to go all in on the strategy. And I don't think I have the right tools for that. I think I'd rather just play the, quote, best, efficient cards that the Necrons have to offer for what I have in my collection, rather than do an all-in Scarab strategy. So just so people know what I'm talking about, this is the Canoptic Scarab, definitely a signature kind of card for the Necrons if you're familiar with them. And it just says whenever you use a stratagem, make another one, right? And they sort of duplicate, right? And can get really out of hand really fast. I've just found there are plenty of Warlords or just plenty of cards that have AoE abilities, and I don't know that you want to go all in on that strategy. And I'm sure some players might disagree with me. But from my perspective, I kind of just want to play the best value cards I can, and sort of have good scalability. I will say that Necrons really suffer from having a lack of card advantage, and Canoptic Scarab is a card that has built-in card advantage, right? Because it's not just netting you one very small, tiny creature or unit. You are able to just go off. But I find it's kind of awkward to play it when you have a lot of stuff that have Remnant, right? Which is a key word for the Necrons, which we'll talk about, is when a unit dies, it leaves a Remnant. And when a Remnant is it's destroyed at the end of your turn or when your opponent attacks it. But you can bring back things with cards like Reanimation Protocol, right? So reanimate a friendly Remnant. So something's died, it leaves this dust on the board, you can reanimate it. It's actually really awkward with Scarabs because the Scarabs will not give you an additional Scarab when you have Remnants on the board, because that's treated as a slot of a unit on the board. So I think, at least for this Warlord, I don't really think that Scarabs make sense, because you're constantly using your ability to make a free 2/3 with 2 health that has Remnant, that you can get value from. So that's just kind of my 2 cents about the Necrons in general. Is there's probably better set up Scarab strategies, and then I think they have a lot of cards that are good on rate. And as we go through the deck list, you'll you'll hear my thoughts on that. So, figure we might as well start with like a pretty nice stratagem. It's 1 energy for 2 damage. And there's plenty of cards that benefit from having stratagems in Necrons. It kind of feels like that's sort of their thing, is that there are plenty of cards that just benefit from having cheap stratagems to play in your deck, which is kind of a card advantage in itself. But the fact that you don't really have any cards that draw you cards, they can only like bring things back from the graveyard, so to speak. It does put Necrons, I think, at a bit of a disadvantage with some of the factions, because it just doesn't have raw card advantage. So Extermination Protocol, just kind of a cheap interactive card that can work well with your other cards that have Artifice. Reanimation Protocol, I just think that it's pretty cheap for what it does. Just being able to bring back a family remnant, and there are plenty of remnants that I think are worth bringing back. So I've liked that. Reconstitution Protocol, I just thought I'd kind of throw one of these in there. Choose a friendly troop that died this game, put it into your hand. I just feel like it's pretty cheap for what it does. And I think that obviously with the other Artifice strategies, it's fine. I'm still kind of, testing this deck out, but so far I've been pretty happy with it. And then I opened a Hyperlogical Strategist, which allows you to draft, look at 3 different options and get a stratagem. And it pulls from a lot of different things. And if there's anything that Spellslingers taught me, for those of you who have come along to Warpforge with me for a little bit, it's that whenever you have the option to draft higher power cards outside of your original deck, at least in terms of starter decks, that's a very powerful thing to do. Because it's going to give you access to cards you don't have in your deck that are just good. So I think two energy for that effect is totally fine. So it replaces itself and gives you, the pick of the litter when it comes to potentially very powerful stratagem spells. Obviously, that's still good with all your Artifice stuff, so I'm playing that. Protection Protocol, I've generally been impressed with when I played against it, so that's why I'm playing it. Either using it as a way to reanimate something, but I would say being able to set up your board where you have potent Vanguard units is pretty good. And plus 3 health and Vanguard for 2 energy when we think about some of the Tyrannid buff spells, I think it's pretty on rate good. So we're playing that. Tesla Immortal. I guess Tesla really just wanted to build some crazy guns in the future, or where 40,000 years or whatever. The Tesla Immortal. I would probably be playing 2 of this card if I had it. I only have 1. It's just very efficient, right? 2 energy, 3 health, 3 range damage, blast 2. And you could potentially bring it back. It's got Remnant, so just an efficient card. And like I said, we're kind of just playing what are the best on rate cards in my mind. So I've been very happy with Tesla Immortal. And then Gauss Immortal, this card gets talked about a lot. If you're in the Warhammer Warforge Discord, it's just a really solid unit. It's 3 energy for 4 health, 1/3. So obviously it gets kind of beat up on by some of the flank melee creatures. But it's got regeneration 2. So if you're not killing this immediately, it's not going to die. And I think what you're able to do with this deck is play a Gauss Immortal and then set up some sort of Vanguard creatures or whatever else, or Vanguard units. And it's just a really efficient card for what you're getting. And I've heard a lot of people complaining about this card, and I kind of get it. On certain board states, it's really obnoxious to deal with. It's also got Remnant, so you can just bring it back and they have to deal with it all over again. But it's definitely answerable. A lot of decks have flank creatures that can kill this outright, so not the biggest deal, but certainly a reasonable card. Technomancer, if I had 2 of it, I would be playing it. I only have 1. It's so good. It may not look great for 3 energy. You get a 2/2 with 4 health, but look at its Artifice ability, right? Reanimate a random friendly remnant. You can basically make a remnant every turn because you're using your ability, and they're going to kill your units to keep the board control for the most part. And so you just have a lot of options where you can just go Technomancer plus a 1 energy stratagem, 2 energy stratagem, and that, I think those are the, those are the cheap cost ones, but we've got plenty of them in the deck. So being able to play this, reanimate something, and then potentially protect it with a Vanguard unit, you just get so much value out of Technomancer. So hopefully I will open more in the future. Tombblade, I believe, got changed. I think it was like a 3/3, like 3 attack, 3 ranged, 3 energy, 3 health, and now it has 2 melee instead of 3. I think cards like this just kind of serve a really important purpose. Being able to have flank creatures that tend to have an advantageous, basically going 2 for 1, where you're able to pick off something small and then your opponent needs to kill it, or it gets to deal 2 or 3 damage to their face. I just think that cards like this tend to play better than they might look. Whether that's just you're combining your Warlord's damage with the Tombblade to kill something, or you're just getting your straight 2 for 1 off of it, I think generally you'll be pretty happy with that card. All right, moving down here. Let's see. Triarch Praetorian. I don't know that this is the greatest card, but it just feels like on rate some of their Vanguard cards are pretty great. And as you saw in the Tyranids video, if you didn't, check it out. Also, I'll stop myself because I already got so ahead. Please like, subscribe, and comment, all that good stuff. Really appreciate it. Helps the channel a lot. Let's see. So I think why Vanguard tends to be good in these decks is that because of Regeneration, Remnant, and a few other things, you get a lot of mileage out of Vanguard. And a 3/3 with 4 health, right? So this is slightly worse than the Chaos Black Legion card, which is a 3/4 with 4 health for 3. I still think it serves a great purpose in the deck, the Praetorian. So I've been generally pretty happy with it. Curse of the Pharaon. A lot of people have said how the Necrons just have a lot of really great board wipes. They actually nerfed this recently in a patch, and I might put up a video for that as well, where it was vulnerable 5, and now it was brought down to vulnerable 4. I don't think that makes a huge difference. Vulnerable 4 is going to kill most things, especially in the early and mid game. But they did nerf it because they felt like it was a little too powerful. Being able to add, essentially, you deal damage and then it's 4 on top of that, or it was 5, is just essentially a board wipe, right, for 4 energy. So not a bad one to be playing. Psychomancer. This card is awkward sometimes because it only hits random enemy troop. It does not hit warlords. I guess it'd probably be a little too good if it did. So if the enemy units have stealth, it's pretty awkward. But it's got decent stats, and being able to stun a troop when it comes into play, you pair it with your stratagem from your Warlord ability or elsewhere, just pretty good. I think Psychomancer plays a nice role in the deck. Scorpek, I guess, Destroyer. This is just your stock big flank card that's going to take something out. Trade. Maybe you can reanimate it because it's got Remnant, which is pretty nice. Frenzied, I really do not like as a mechanic. For those of you who don't know, it just randomly attacks something at the start of your turn. Most card players will know random is usually not good for you, for the most part. So the fact that you can't choose where this is attacking the second time is pretty bad. But up front, it's got 5 attack. It's taking out most units when it comes down in the mid game. I still think this card is pretty worth it to play. And I've been definitely pretty happy with it. I'm still playing around, I would say, with the last few slots in the deck. Generally, I've been happy with Doom Scythe. There's some other cards as entertaining. There's the 4-drop that gives you like a ranged card, but also nets you a 2/3 that has 2 health. Doom Scythe, I feel like with how powerful the Eldari are with ranged combat, and how powerful actually the Space Marines can be, the Ultramarines, I think having something like this in your deck is usually going to 2 for 1. It comes in, kills something, they have to trade with it. And I think that's pretty good because I feel like with Necrons, it's kind of attrition. You're making your free, your 2/3s with 2 health, and kind of building up your board presence, and then you play Doom Scythe to answer some of their cards. I think that it probably deserves a slot in the deck. And these last few cards I think will probably change as I get access to other things, but Lich-Guard, oh boy. Also, if you're in the Discord, you probably heard about this card. It's essentially the same thing as the 4 cost creature or unit in the Tyranids deck, but it's 1 energy more and it's got 2 more health. So it's 6 health, 2 armor. This thing just takes forever to kill if you do not have hard removal. And it's probably one of the best cards you can play in the deck. I only have 1, sadly, but Lich-Guard is just, armor 2 is just a beating. It just takes so long to kill this. It's got Vanguard, it's got Remnant, so maybe you get lucky and you actually get to bring it back for like 1 energy with Reanimate. It's a really, really solid card. Scythe Assault used to do 2 to 4 damage, now it deals 2 to 3. They did nerf it. So clearly if your deck is getting nerfed, I don't know, I mean, maybe you got a target on your back, but you're probably doing something right if you're playing those cards. The thing is, you can go turn 4, make everything vulnerable 4, then Scythe Assault, right? So it just becomes like this one-sided board wipe, or a Plague Wind for those of you Magic players. And it just, I only have 1 Scythe Assault. I probably would play 2. I still think it's just a really great way to clear up the board a bit. Plasmancer, generally been happy with this card. It's got a lot of health. It's not the easiest to kill. And it's really easy to just play this in the late game and pair it with 1 or 2 stratagems and just like bash your opponent. If it hits the Warlord, you get up on life. If it hits their units, you're getting pretty good amount of card advantage. It's got 7 health, so it's pretty beefy. So again, all these cards with Artifice, really pair well with our cheap stratagem cards. Methodical Destruction, it's your late game, unconditional removal spell. That's what I was trying to say. And it deals 2 to 3 damage to adjacent units. I just feel like this card is always exactly what you want when you draw it later on in the game. And you just, hard removal, I feel, is pretty necessary. There are just some cards that you have to be able to answer. And Methodical Destruction, it's kind of like a kill something for unconditionally and spread some damage that you can kind of take advantage of with the vulnerable cards that you have with Scythe Assault. So been pretty big fan of Methodical Destruction. And then I just opened this today, actually, Tomb World. I think people were also calling for this card to be nerfed, and I just haven't played it yet. I haven't really played the deck so much, and because obviously I got it today and we're making the video today, I didn't have a ton of experience with it. But if we look at it, it's 8 energy, deploy up to 6 friendly infantry troops that died this game. Seems pretty good. Seems pretty strong. I mean, there are going to be some board states where this is not good enough, but think about how many Vanguard cards we have in our deck. So let's say we're pretty low on health for our Warlord. The odds of us hitting relevant Vanguard cards off our Tomb World is probably going to be pretty high. And if we're playing this style of deck where we're just putting in the quote best or most efficient cards for Necrons in our deck, Tomb World is just going to get us a ton of value. So that is our late game spell. I will say, excuse my scrolling for a second, Monolith is sick. I remember playing with these in Dawn of War, for those of you who played that game. It's obviously really, really powerful. It's got armor 3, a bunch of health. It's massive, and you get this crazy card that the Eldar actually have at 8 energy as well. But it's probably too expensive. I mean, maybe there's a world in which we should be playing this. I hope I can have an effective control deck that can play Monolith, because it's just that cool. But Tomb World will do for now as our late game curve topper. So, without further ado, why don't we play a couple games? All right. Got a bit of a Necron showdown here against this Warlord Oricon, who I think is probably one of the better control ones. Choosing a card from your deck, putting it on top is, I think, a pretty powerful ability in general. So, looking at her hand, I don't really want Reconstitution Protocol in my opening hand. These are fine, though, because, again, we're going to be spamming our ability early. So, I'm pretty good to keep those. Oh, okay. We got the Strategist card. So, honestly, I'd rather play this once I see kind of how the game is playing out, because I'll have a bit more information. Unfortunately, it is against a bot. I'm just going to hit here. I think against a lot of decks, I'm not going to be the aggressor, but since we're up on cards because of this, I think it's fine to just bash the opponent. Also, side note, I think that some decks have really, really good counterattack cards. Necrons have by far the worst one. 1 damage for 0 is just not a card that I would put in my deck for the most part. It's good with Artifice, sure, but yeah, generally not that good. But again, just going to make my guy hit our opponent here, be pretty happy. Now, whatever they play, we can potentially destroy her. Yeah, I mean, I don't think you ever want to be playing Technomancer into an open board. Obviously, our bot opponent doesn't know that. But for sure, I just don't think there's any reason not to just bash this guy. And we'll kill the Remnant too, because I forgot it also has Remnant, and that is not good. So he'll die to the Warlord here for free, but, you know, obviously 1 for 1, totally fine. We're going to get to do the same thing against their Goss Immortal, which is pretty decent. Okay. Got back the Artificer. Don't love that. You could reanimate this and attack here. That actually might be... We'll get the value off it, which is nice. And we can use all of our... Yeah, I actually think I like that better. Animate that. Let's... I probably should have strategized first, actually, just to... Wow, we have another Reconstitution Protocol. But also we've got the Protection Protocol, which essentially does the same thing with more value. Yeah, let's do that. We already have a cursive whatchamacallit there. Get our free attack, which is nice. And we're definitely going to kill the Remnant on that because we know that they have the other guy. Okay. Makes sense. Probably just going to trade this pretty happily. Oh, well, I don't get to choose because of Frenzied. I forgot. Oh, Frenzied. Well, we can bring this back, but I just don't think the value is really there at this point. And I'd like to go Psymancer and Protocol next turn. So, how do I want to play this? Might actually just be Praetorian and our Relentless March. And let's kill this guy so they don't get the value. And then next turn we can maybe Plasmancer plus our Extermination Protocol. Hexmark Destroyer is a card I've thought about for like this kind of Artifice synergy. I don't know if it's that good, but maybe it is. Okay, so we can kill it with all of our physical damage. But is there a way to more efficiently do it? I think if we get lucky off this, it'll hit. But I think this is still fine, honestly. Okay, deals 3 there. And then we can trade here. Take a little bit of damage, that's fine. Then to be safe, let's kill the Remnant. And now they have to go through this before they want to kill the Plasmancer, which is just a great card. This is a card that people have also talked about, the Ghost Arc, because it's got so much health. And you get a free Necron Warrior. And then it has Artifice is making Necron Warrior, and then you get Reanimate after you have it. But I think we're just going to kill it outright and be pretty happy with that. I guess we could see where the Relentless March hits first. Yeah, let's do that first. Okay, it's just hitting face. Then pretty happy to Doom Scythe because it'll survive combat. And then I can actually just go here to keep my guy up. And then we just get to hit face. Pretty happy about that. Doomstalker. I don't think I actually have this. It's kind of an interesting card. So whenever an enemy attacks, deal 2 to 3 damage to it. So I'm not really sure how that works with combat. I do want to kill it, so I think this is a good Curse of the Farian turn. Also get a little value there. And we can actually, let's just play Relentless March, see if we hit him. Very nice. And then we can just, let's see if this, well, I guess if I want to be safe. We grant you a little bit of health. Let's see if this hits. It does not. Okay, cool. So they can attack, and then the trigger, I guess, goes through. And that is the end of it. Yeah. So, just kind of like value, you know? And it seems pretty fine. Okay, Hearken. We'll see how this goes. Okay, probably don't want the 7-drop this early. Reanimation Protocol is not terrible, but I like this. I mean, Reanimation Protocol is nice with the Technomancer later, but I think let's just ship those 2 back. Nice, we're playing against a player as well. So Harkin's pretty good against us because when we make a guy, it's really easy for him to use the passive and just kill our little unit. It is making them use 2 energy to do that. We can actually play Tesla Mortal here and just hope that they don't really have a great way to kill it. So I think I am down to do that. We'll see how that goes. Part of the reason why, you know, I wouldn't want to run Scarabs is they get absolutely toast by Harkin. So, I mean, obviously you can't plan for that for every matchup, but okay. So some interesting lines of play here. I think we just cash in here. It's going to become a remnant, and then I could think about reanimating it and then playing a 2-drop, but then he kind of gets a lot of value with that. I think we just say goodbye to this, unfortunately. It is what it is. And then let's just play our Vanguard unit here. And we put it here so that they can't easily kill the Remnant. And the question is, do I attack here? I am ahead on life, but generally I feel like we're kind of going into the late game. I don't love trading health that early. Let's see what they do here. Okay, Mr. Warp Talon. A bit annoying. So now next turn he can kind of set up killing this. Alright, so I mean here honestly the play could be cash this in for 3, play Technomancer, hit this for 1, reanimate. That seems pretty decent to me. So let's, because the other plays are not that attractive, I don't think. Let's do that. And then let's do this. And now we're pretty ahead on life. I'm going to have to deal with this again. I'm just going to hit again. Then I'll pass the turn. Okay. Yeah, so imagine Warp Talon's going to hit our guy. That's pretty good. Don't love that. And then kill the Remnant. Yeah, that's pretty smart. Definitely with this on the board. All right, so how do we clear up this board to the best of our ability? Curse of the Pharaoh, that allows me to kill this and then trade here. And then, but then I can't reanimate. Could also Scythe Assault. And then maybe Extermination Protocol this. Let's try that. I think that's potentially better. Okay. Oh, that's 5. I can't do math, apparently. Geez, I don't love trading this sort of damage. I don't really have a better option. I just miscounted there. But I need to get this off the board. Yep, that was... I think there I might have done Curse of the Pharaoh instead, and then Extermination Protocol. That was a bit of a misplay for me. Okay, well, Dark Apostle is definitely one of those cards that you have to kill, because it's just really easy for them to just get a bunch of value. I think the only way to do that is just Curse. Deals 2 before that's 6. I'm still going to have to attack it. Don't love that, but I think we just have to answer it. I don't think there's a way not to. Take reduced damage to kill it. Not great, though. Not my favorite thing. And now we're getting low on cards here, which is kind of what happens when you play Necrons. At least with the build that we currently have. Not a lot of card advantage. But also we definitely misplayed last turn. Not ideal. Okay. Got some options. Tomb Blade to try and kill this immediately. That's probably worth it. I'm going to code Vanguard Protocol on this and play Relentless March. Get some health. Yeah. But then he's just going to hit them all and they all get low. Like, I just don't know how worth that is. Let's just do this. We'll have a good next turn with Plasmancer and our passive, or Plasmancer and the protection protocol. Oh yeah, this thing hurts. Okay, well I'm glad they attacked this because it does nothing. Well, Triarch Praetorian's pretty annoying for them. That actually might be the play, because they can't maybe kill this outright and they have to sink this attack into it. And then we can go Plasmancer next turn. I feel like that's a little bit better. Get to hit this for 3. I think we just want to pressure here. And then Relentless March on this side. Oh, right, it just comes down wherever. Yeah. See what they got. I mean, if they have the deal 4 to 6 damage to everything, we might just be dead. 9, 10, 11, yeah. But if they don't, here's hoping. I could have Protection Protocoled a different thing, but I didn't know. Oh, 2 damage to all. Yeah, that'll do it. Dang. Yep. Oh, God. Yeah, I think the attack here, attack me. GG. Close game. The Protection Protocol actually, I think, would have made the difference, unfortunately, but GG. All right, well, definitely, I think, not the most ideal deck. I just have this sneaking suspicion that Nemezer is probably the weakest of the Warlords for Necrons, because making it to, like, making a thing every turn is, like, fine. It's definitely not, like, awful. But either being able to put any card at the top of your deck for 1 energy, I do think that that's generally pretty good. Or the other Warlord. I'll see if we can go to it, actually. Just so y'all can see. Let's filter by... can we do it by Warlords? Yes. And then let's do... Showing. Cool. Okay. Let's go to Necrons. Yeah. So you've got Oricon, who I think is an excellent control Warlord because, you know, just having like the ability to get perfect card selection, I think is incredibly, incredibly powerful. And then there's Imatech, which just has more health and has a signature ability that offsets some health as well. You deal 1 to anything and you heal 1. And what I've played against some of the other Warlords for Ultramarines, like Magnus Calgar, for instance. Draw a card, totally fine, like nothing to write home about, but having the extra health enables a lot more than you would think for a control strategy. That's kind of why I think the other one's good. And Tigurius kind of plays the same way, right? You've got like one Warlord that just like does damage or makes a unit. You've got another Warlord that gets like better card selection. And then you've got a Warlord that just has more health and has some sort of like, I would say, more control slated ability. So I think for the Necrons, I think that Nemezer is clearly probably the worst Warlord. But it shouldn't deter you from playing the deck. Necrons can be extremely potent. They've got some really, really great synergies, especially with Artifice. I'm glad I got to bring you all of the factions, which definitely took a bit. I guess we started the open alpha on June 16th. Is that right? And we're now July 9th. So yeah, took a few weeks to kind of fill out all the decks. And they're by no means like top tier. I think my Tyranid deck is probably the strongest. And then I'd probably go Chaos, Ultramarines, maybe after that, or like Eldar, then Ultramarines, then Necron, just for the sheer cards that I've opened. But also I'm thinking about definitely doing a tier list at some point. That's something I really enjoyed with the other games that I create content for. So I got plenty of things cooking. Work's been pretty busy, but I'm hoping to get more content to y'all, not just with deck text and stuff like that. So a bit more variety on the channel, maybe during this week. We'll see. But thanks for sticking with me as always. Appreciate the likes, subscribes, comments, all that good stuff. And I will check you later. Thank you.